Welcome, Traveler. You just got to level 60 and want to progress from Torment 1, 2, 3 to 4. And also find out where these killer caches are coming from with a triple greater affix. Wow. Well, in Season 9, it's a little bit different, and that has all to do with your Heraldric powers, especially Disintegrate. Let me actually kick out all my skeletons and show you something interesting. This is Tier 10 Torment 1, the thing you would have to do to actually jump into Torment 1 with level 60. And alone with the Disintegrate power, I could do that jump already. Pull a bunch of enemies together, pull your beam of death out, wave it through your enemies, they all die. Next pack of enemies, my wolves are being automatically summoned from walking, and they all die. So, alone your beam is strong enough to do this for you. Even those pesky Torment 1 lair bosses, they just get beamed to death. Yep. I mean, obviously I could do more. I could do, my minions and everything. But alone my beam already is strong enough to win this fight for me. Ta-da. Belial down. Minimal effort put in. Which means even if you're noobing around and have the worst build ever, you should be able to jump into Torment 1. What you need to do though is, you need to spend your leveling up to 60 doing some strong rooms, which you do anyways for your quest line, and then put all your Heraldric vials you're earning to upgrade the Disintegrate power. I also put the Lightning Infusion on it because that makes the Disintegrate arc out left and right. Very good for clearing. And for the Arcana, you're using what falls in front of your feet, as the drop rates can be kinda scuffed. I wanted to have bonus barrier and also picked up Sharpening Gizmo, which allows me to do even more damage. This one does not trigger this much on Disintegrate though. This means you're in Torment 1 now, and your first step will be going to the Purveyor of Curiosities. Here you gamble all the obols you have saved up to get yourself a greater affixed weapon. Nothing else, just try to get a greater affixed weapon, but don't gamble like a beginner. You go to your seasonal blessings, and if you already have Smoldering Ashes, put them into the Urn of Curiosities. This will give you a chance for a bonus item as you're gambling obols. Your second stop is going to be at the Den, where the mercenaries are. At this point, you should have around 500 to 600 pale marks. Talk to her. She's going to sell you material caches, boss materials, whatsoever, but she can also stash greater affix items. Not only greater affix items, you could also get a max rolled aspect that will boost your build tremendously. Blast through all your pale marks, restocking, looking for an actual upgrade. I recommend buying the movement aspect and defensive aspect, any kind of aspect caches you get as well, because they can have greater affix items, but there's also more than one item coming out. Boom, helmet. That one is better than, it's actually worse than my current one because it doesn't have intelligence. But it's a good helmet nonetheless if I didn't have a greater affixed helmet. Also, heads up to your mercs, as soon as they are fully leveled, instantly exchange them for a new one, since Subu adds utility aspect cache and also the boss summoning material cache. Yes, you want Subu leveled up as fast as possible. Preferable start with Variana Subu combo. I'm just so used to Rahir that I always have him as my second one. He added the crafting cache and also the defensive aspect cache. Next up, make sure all your items are fully socketed up. At this point, your rings should have flawless diamonds. And 2 of your armor pieces should be full with your basic stat. In my case, it would be topazes for the intelligence. That's just simply resistance and all damage. The other 2 items should be getting a rune combo. One of my favorite early ones is Seer, cast 5 skills, then become exhausted, and then take C for the wolf companions. These freeze and make enemies vulnerable. Works pretty well for any class. Alternative, I like to take anything that boosts guard because it's just more critical strike chance, and most builds that are not damage over time can crit. For this, you can simply drink a potion, or actually use the healing potion drinking for the wolf companions. Would I temper for Torment 2? Only the greater affix pieces, and your weapon even if it's not greater affixed. The interesting part this season is you have tons of Opticide to early Masterwork items, because you jumped into Nightmare Dungeons and the Strong Rooms, or you might have done your first Nightmare Dungeon escalation in Torment 1. I got myself in Torment 1 a greater affix sword, made sure to temper it with basic tempers, and then brought it up to 8 times Masterwork just like that. Also make sure your armor reaches that 1000 value. For me, it's often just put on Juggernaut aspect on a piece where you have it left over, and then also try to temper total armor percentage. Now, I don't have total armor percentage because I kept tempering maximum life, and for the love of God, I didn't get it yet. Should you be looking for your key unique pieces that make you stronger, you could technically jump into the bosses, but in Torment 1, they drop so few items that it's really super lucky to actually get the thing you need. With the layer bosses, I would usually wait for Torment 2 because you're just getting more stuff. And as we said before, your disintegrate power is just going to help you so much with that. I mean, in Torment 1, disintegrate alone kills a boss, and in Torment 2, it's still doing massive damage, but you might have to add some of your own on top of it. But here, like, I'm a summoner, right? Have no summons out, and with the disintegrate and my army of the dead, I'm alone able to actually get this one done here as well. So yeah, killing Torment 2 bosses ain't going to be a struggle. In order to get a full set of ancestral items in Torment 1, I heavily recommend knocking out whispers left, right, and center, the Helltide, whenever a boss is a whisper, or the Undercity down here in Curist. Since from Torment 1 on, the Tree of Whispers will also grant you greater affixed items, and it can even get you these ancestral big caches. Generally speaking, the drop rate has increased. I've been getting tons of ancestral items early. Nightmare escalation helps there as well, or just do one of the Infernal Hordes and loot the 200 offering chest, which you anyways want to do because of the tempo reset scrolls. But not for Opticide anymore. Opticide is really coming from Nightmare Dungeons. I'm consistently at 5,000 plus Opticide. What do we need to do now though to jump from Torment 2 to Torment 3? Because Torment 2 is around 1 million damage for a tormented boss, where at Torment 3 we're looking at 100 million damage. In order to scale your damage up, we're looking for Paragon points. You want to have around 70 to 100 for Torment 3. Since you want to knock out 1, 2, or even 3 legendary nodes, in my case, this is 200% bonus damage, and then if I have the Hulking Monstrosity, it would be another 40% bonus damage, plus your first 3 glyphs, which gives you also another 10% in my case, another 15%, and also another 18% more damage. This is what then stacks up your million damage further and further, as you're also getting more of your main stat, and more main stat is all damage. I don't really farm the pit from Torment 2 to 3. I get from 25 to 30 to 35, and then right away jump into 40. Keep in mind that Torment 3 itself is relative simple from a damage perspective. With like 10, 20 million damage, you're going to be good. If you then want to kill the layer bosses, with a measly 10, 20 million, it's not going to be looking good. You want to actually have more 50 to 100 million outliers to really get them down in a meaningful way. But with 10, 20 million, you could already farm the Blood Maiden. You could already do the Helltide and use the bonus experience that Torment 3 is giving you, as you could also do the Nightmare Dungeons. Keep in mind here that you don't want to do a Nightmare Dungeon escalation as you fresh jump into Torment 3, because the Nightmare Dungeon escalation is now really getting harder and harder. Astaroth in Tier 4 is really a challenge, but you could certainly go into a Horadric Sapphire Reserve, or you could try to get a Gem Reserve, Forgotten Wisdom, Strong Room, Vials, whatever you need in this case. In Torment 3, or before you jump into Torment 3, you also want most of your pieces at least 4 times Masterwork. Even if your unique item is not a greater affix unique item, just Masterwork it 4 times and be done with it. My weapon was 8 times Masterwork before I jumped into Torment 3, because why not? My weapon was good already. My chest too, my chest was nice, I was lucky there. My Hand of Nas was not a greater affix item, we still 8 times Masterworked it because it gives me so much bonus damage. You will then, end of the day, bring it to the smith and break it down and actually get the Masterwork materials back. So don't worry about wasting. The only thing you're wasting is maybe the upgrade resources themselves, the money for upgrading, but you get the Opticite back. And that's what you want to have to then, if you get a greater affix item, right away do it. In Torment 3, I would also spend tons of my materials, because that's where really the bosses are dropping meaningful many items. Don't worry though if you can't kill a Torment 3 Duriel. Right now I'm sitting in Torment 4, and you know what? If I have to kill Duriel or Andariel, I actually drop down to Torment 3 because they're so annoying to kill and their whole sequence is so stupid that I would rather kill them in Torment 3 faster than have them in Torment 4 be annoying. Whereas if I do Belial, I do Belial in Torment 4. But in order to jump into Torment 4 from 3, we're talking about you need 100 million damage standard. my mages were doing 100 to 200 million damage. That's when I felt good about actually jumping into Torment 4. That's when I felt ready. And in order to then do the big bosses, the actual lair bosses, I want to see a billion from you every now and then. But before I start seeing a billion, or like your DPS is 500 million standard, you're not even going to get close to one of these lair bosses, okay? And for this, you will want to have then your items 12 times Masterwork with a good temper, in my case, Finality or Titan's Fall, which then multiplies my damage meaningful up. You would like to have an amulet that has a main stat percentage multiplier greater affix, and hopefully also your unique items that you have been chasing. Do you need legendary glyphs to enter Torment 4? Depends on your build. For me, it was not necessary. Summoner Necro really has a nice power curve. As you're then in Torment 4, you obviously want to slowly work towards that level 45. Again, with Torment 4, keep in mind that as you're working your way towards 45, level 50, maybe do some 54s before you jump over. But Torment 4 itself, if you do 100, 200, 300 million damage, you can go in there. And you can also then again do the Helltide. The Helltide lady with 300 million damage is nice. But again, doing those Hall of Penitent tormented bosses, unless you're doing billions, is going to be more than just a struggle. Good news in Torment 4 though. Bosses are finally dropping more runes than ever. And also the Tribute of Harmony that we're getting from killing bosses, doing whispers, finally drop legendary runes every now and then as well. Nightmare escalations in Torment 4 are going to be a big challenge, but it's worth it. My Astaroth actually dropped around 8 unique items. I was like, holy moly, what's happening? While Infernal Hordes, I only do the 6ers. I never go above the 6er, just for the Scrolls of Restoration. If I want Opticide, you really just go into these Nightmare dungeons, especially the Horadric Strong Room one. I think one Strong Room on Torment 4 gives around 2,000 to 3,000 Opticide. I went into one with like 1.8, and I left with over 5k. It was crazy. One Nightmare dungeon escalation gave me a total of 8,000 Opticide or so. And you're just blasting through it. It goes so quick. For boss materials, I can heavily recommend you still the Helltides. You want to do Helltides anyways, and the Pids, because they give you tons of reputation. And these caches, the repeatable rewards, the Mystery Greater Archetype cache, they're again absolutely insane. I mean, look at this. Greater affix item, greater affix, yeah. Holy moly. And they're all like this. I got a 2 greater affix, 3 greater. They're insane. Now go out there and slay your way all the way to Torment 4 and tell me how your progression is going. And if you're struggling with anything, put that in the comments below. Here's also the level guide and a general material guide. Thanks for watching. Take care.